And welcome to Adelante Chicago. I'm Lourdes Duarte. Bienvenidos. We are now just months away from the mayor's race. We know Mayor Rahm Emanuel won't be running, and the list of candidates is getting longer by the day. We now have some Latinos planning to run. Political heavyweight Chuy Garcia announced he's not running, but could other Latinos make a difference in this race? We know of at least two who say they plan to run, as I've been saying. Political analyst and host of Politics Tonight, Paul Lisnek, is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this race. And the latest name joining the race is Susana Mendoza, which we'll delve into in just a little bit. But let's talk about how interesting this race has become, because you've got people really from so many different sectors vying for the seat.
Yeah, bienvenidos.
Oh, muy bien, muy
I have
bien.
to throw that in.
Muy bien.
You know
You're
what?
learning.
Yes, this got very interesting, especially when Rahm Emanuel announced he wasn't running. Because prior to that time, Lourdes, there was just a vast array of people, and some names we know, some we didn't. But once he pulled himself out, in come what I would call heavy hitters: Tony Preckwinkle, Bill Daley, and Susana Mendoza as the latest entry on the side of the Latina side. She would be the first, by the way, not only Latina mayor, but the first Latino person who would be mayor of the city of Chicago.
And I said, you know, this pie is going to be split in so many different ways. I would say it is very safe to say that there's going to be a runoff election.
Oh, there will be a runoff election. The question is, there will only be two who make it. So which two will that be? You know, anything can happen, but you have to look at Susana Mendoza because of the support she has. Rahm Emanuel loves her. Mike Madigan loves her. She will have money, and you need $5 million to get through this campaign. So anybody who doesn't have around $5 million to get through this campaign, they're not staying around. But Bill Daley, Tony Preckwinkle, these are the names you have to look at as the race goes on in terms of who actually rises from this for the runoff.
Okay. When we talk about the Latino vote, I know she's the only Latina, but there's Gary Chico also in this race. So I'm wondering, between the two of them, we've talked about in the past how the Latino vote really can help bring somebody to victory, but how do they split that, and which people go to which sides, I guess? You
know, the question is, first of all, do people vote based on race or nationality? And there are some people who say, I want to...
Well, especially a last name like a Mendoza or a Chico, or
there's no question.
People might vote in that direction.
But my point is, there are also people who might say, I just want the best person, whatever the background of that person is. But obviously, yes, if you're Latino, you want your issues at the forefront, then you're thinking of those candidates. Look, Gary Chico doing very well on the fundraising side. Has some name recognition, has a great, resume to boot, but, Susana Mendoza brings with her role as controller and her previous role as a city clerk. I think the question we'll wonder about Mendoza is, did she get herself in a bit of hot water when, with all the speculation that she would run for mayor, it was no surprise that she did, but she wouldn't admit that she was considering it, even though Tony Preckwinkle, when she was running for another office, president of Cook County Board, said, yes, I'm going to run for mayor. Then, of course, that ad leaked out prior to the announcement. She, all these excuses came out. I think mostly voters have short memories, so I think in time that may be forgiven.
But there have been other attacks, though, coming at her in the last few days. Not just that about the ad being leaked before she announced she was going to run, but you talked about the Mike Madigan thing.
Exactly. Her ties to the powers that be. She presents herself as an independent voice and an independent force. And look, her record as a progressive is a strong one. So that is true. But if voters are looking for somebody who just is going to start a new day, they don't want to deal with anybody who's has ties to the old Emanuel days or the Madigan days, whatever, then she may not be the comfortable pick for them, and they're going to look elsewhere.
That said, do you see, and you talked about Mayor Emanuel really backing her, supporting her in the past, do you see the mayor endorsing anyone in the weeks, months to come?
You know what? It's hard to predict what this mayor will do. If I was going to bet, I would say no. I think he's got enough people he knows in this race, and I think his view will be, let the people decide. I don't expect him to put a name behind it, but I think in a runoff, based on who the candidate is, look, he's no fan of Tony Preckwinkle's, and he's no fan of Bill Daley's. So if Mendoza makes it into the runoff, you can be sure that's probably where the Emanuel money goes, and maybe some support prior to that time to maybe help ensure she is one of those final names.
Yeah, it's really interesting because for a long time in this race, we had no Latinos in the race, and now you've got two pretty high-profile ones. So
it could have been very interesting with Chuy Garcia, with Luis Gutierrez. All those names were bandied about. Both of them have taken themselves out of it. But if they were in the race, or one of them was in the race, I wouldn't know what to tell you.
Do you see them endorsing anyone?
Yeah, I think in time,
Yeah.
I think they will. Look, Rick Munoz is also no friend to Susana Mendoza, and he has a voice as an alderman. So the bottom line is I think they'll all pick their sides, but I think it's too early for them perhaps to pick somebody. But expect some split between Chico and Mendoza from the Latino community.
Sure. All right. I don't want to let you go here without talking about your book, Paul Lisnek. Just to shift it off of the mayoral election, you got a book that you just wrote.
You know what? I've written a bunch of books. This is my first fiction book. It's called Assume Guilt. And
Look at that.
it's complete fiction, Illinois corruption in politics. Right, that doesn't happen. So it's complete fiction. But there is an important reporter candidate in there whose name is Lourdes Ponce. Now, I'm not sure if you know where that name comes from, but my guess is that folks who read it will see some WGN references in there, including the company called Potash Pharmaceuticals, which is polluting everything. But it's just coincidence is all it is.
So it sounds just like a telenovela to me, is what I'd like to say.
Yeah, I'm
Paul
hoping
Lisnek.
maybe you guys might make it into a telenovela, perhaps for the morning news.
Let me work on it. Let me work on it.
Thank
Paul
you.
Lisnek, host of Politics Tonight. You can always catch him here on WGN as our political analyst. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Okay.